What is punching down and what is punching up? So Steve Saylor notes back in 2015, when I was young in the 60s and 70s, the spirit of the age was all about satire and disrespecting sacred cows. Yeah, remember that controversial was a good thing in the 60s into the 70s. And a lot of young people emerged triumphant from that era. Many are still around. But today, from their august positions, they lecture us on the dangers of satire and unrestrained comedy. They lecture us about our lack of respect for proper thoughts. Consider Gary Trudeau. He's a scion of old money, liberal, Protestant, good blood, good bone folks. Right? He rapidly triumphed in the 60s as a representative of the rising generation of the educated and the sophisticated. He started the predecessor to his Doonesbury cartoon strip at Yale in the 1960s. He became the Jon Stewart of his generation. But in 2015, right, Gary Trudeau writes in The Atlantic, the abuse of satire. Talks about Charlie Hebdo, free speech fanaticism, and the problem with punching down. Right? My career was not my idea. I got recruited. And I wrote this subversive comic strip because I didn't know any better. In college, there's no downside. In the real world, there is. But the euphoria of being recognized for anything, you don't notice it at first. One of the nicer things about youthful cluelessness is it's so frequently confused with courage. It's a flawed risk assessment. And he wrote a comedic strip that was forever banned. And people were hostile. And he said, I thought we had an insurmountable generational problem. But one night after losing 3 papers, my boss took me out for a steak and he explained his strategy. Right, the 34-year-old syndicate head looked at his 22-year-old discovery, meaning Gary Trudeau, over the rim of his martini glass, smiled and said, don't worry, sooner or later, these guys die, meaning the people who were killing his strip. Well, damned if he wasn't right. A year later, the beloved patriarch of those 3 papers passed on, leaving them to his intemperate son, whose first official act naturally was to restore the Doonesbury cartoon. And following that, a happy pattern emerged all across the country. Publishers who had vowed that Doonesbury would appear in their papers over their dead bodies were getting their wish. Now, many of my colleagues have spent time discussing red lines since the tragedy in Paris where you had Muslim terrorists shooting up Charlie Hebdo. Traditionally, satire has comforted the afflicted while afflicting the comfortable. Satire punches up against authority of all kinds, the little guy against the powerful. Ridiculing the non-privileged is almost never funny. It's just mean. So how can you tell who are the non-privileged? Well, the answer is simple. By definition, the non-privileged are those who have the privilege of not being ridiculed. Right? That means those who enjoy a sacred identity, such as black or gay or trans